السلام عليكم. في حلقة جديدة مع خلف الكواليس مع سارة العايد، ولقاء مع رائدات أعمال لبنان. ومرة سعيدة لقائنا اليوم، والرائدات اللي موجودين معنا حنسمع من أشخاص مختلفين. كيفكم كلكم؟ إن شاء الله الكل بخير وأهلا وسهلا، والجميع إن شاء الله يكونوا كويسين، وألف ألف ألف حمد لله على سلامة أهلنا وأخواننا والجميع في لبنان. وشكرا لكل من بيطلع معنا في هذا اللقاء خلف الكواليس، وبنتكلم عن الريادة، عن المجتمع، عن إيش دورنا وكيف أبطال لبنان موجودين على أرض الواقع. كيف حالك؟
Hayati Sara, thank you so much for your solidarity and for featuring all of the amazing Lebanese women on the ground. We really missed you, but we feel you're with us here in Lebanon.
I wish I could be there. من جد أتمنى أن أكون معاكم. إحنا قلبا وقالبا لبنان أهلنا. As you know, I was born in Lebanon. فأنا أحس نفسي يعني الإنسان اللي مخلط من كل البلاد، وكل بلد استضافتني، وكل بلد تدخليها وأنتي بين أهلها وبتحسي نفسك أنتي مع أهلك. You're with your family. But Lebanon is always it's the place where my parents got married. It's the place where I was born. My elder brother Mohammed was born also. Lebanon is home. It's where my brother grew up and went to Brumana High School. It's home. And we're just so happy. We're happy إنه الحمد لله على سلامتكم كلكم. كلكم بخير وصحة وعافية، والله يقوي لبنان وأهلها وتطلعوا منها دائما. We were saying yesterday, like a phoenix, you rise from the ashes. Well, like a phoenix, Lebanon rises from any destruction. Thank you for your time. الله يسلمك. كيف حالك؟
Doing very well, and have to say I really miss Saudi. We've been here now for 7 months, ever since the confinement, and now with this explosive situation that we are all in, but at the same time, it was so important to be home, so that we could deeply mourn together, but also step up together and take charge of this country as private citizens, as businesses, as leaders in our own rights. And I couldn't have wanted to be anywhere else in the middle of this devastation except in Beirut.
Absolutely, I agree completely. Again, alhamdulillah ala salamatkум. I know you went through a lot. Your parents, Allah يحفظهم, they're here, they're watching us now. Hello, and you went home. Lynn, I know it's يعني عارفة إن هي it's emotional ومرة صعب اللي صار، بس what happened that day? What happened?
Sada, it was a normal day for all of us. I was doing my usual afternoon jog in the neighborhood, and as you know, because you know our home here and our neighborhood, we're in Fern El Hayek, which is a less than 3-minute walk from Gemeze. It is 5 minutes away from 3 minutes by car, 10 minutes walking from the devastated areas. And really, it was a normal day. I went jogging. I went back home, and I went upstairs, and I was at the front door of my parents' home. And the first thing we felt was the shaking. And this is what a lot of people will tell you. There was shaking, and it sounded like planes, right? That sounded like maybe a sound barrier had broken. And things started to shake massively. As you know, we're on a top floor. The back side of the building faces directly the port, uninterrupted view directly to the port. And then everything just imploded and exploded around us. And you're seeing the healthy wall behind me, because I didn't want to be on the other side of the house, which is partially wrecked and very damaged. I wanted to be here today with a message of more than just resilience, because I think the Lebanese don't want to be resilient anymore. They want to grow. We want to prosper. And so I really wanted to make sure that I was standing against what really feels like home, and Baba's photo is behind me, and yeah, so that's how it was. And Sada, just to say, we didn't understand what happened, because the phone stopped, the TV stations weren't loading properly, My first phone calls came from Riyadh saying, are you okay? Because we're seeing something massive on TV. And I couldn't understand. I said, what are you seeing? Because we're not understanding what has happened. Is there going to be another explosion? Has there been a bit bomb from the air? What is happening?
What is going on?
And so it's actually thanks to our friends in Riyadh that we understood what was going on, and then eventually started to get connected with all of our friends, our loved ones, our teams, the neighbors around us, and we've all had our losses, and many are injured, and this is where we are today.
Wow. Well, alhamdulillah ala salamatkум. I'm very happy that you're well, you're safe. Whatever is broken, كل ما تكسر بتعوض. بس أرواح الناس does not, you know. And so my condolences to everybody
Yes.
who has lost a loved one. الله يشفي كل أحد في مستشفيات اليوم مجروحين معورين وإن شاء الله يكونوا بالسلامة. And then الله يعوضكم خير كل شيء وزي ما تكسر يتبني تاني because أنتوا قدها. يعني يا أهل لبنان, as you said, we don't want to hear about resilience. We don't need, it's not about resilience. It's about coming together. It's about feeling the empathy. And اليومين اللي فاتت واللي طلعوا معايا لميس, إليسار, إلين, مايكل, sorry, George, Tariq, sorry, and Yusur, and everybody was talking about the same thing. It's coming together as a community. We're a community and we want to support each other, we want to help each other. We want to grieve, we need to grieve. We cannot bottle things inside us. Alhamdulillah, everybody's on the same page, and people grieve and go through things in their own pace. Finesse, they could get over, you know, move on within hours, and others need a couple of days. But what we need to do is be there for them. And Lamis was saying something about أول شيء بدي أوقف وأقول أهلين أبي just joined us وبيقول لكم لها الحياة لهم الحياة وتكون لهم حياة أفضل إن شاء الله يا رب.
إن شاء الله.
أهلين كل من بينضم علينا اليوم ودحين ومعنا لين زوغفيان, ولين هي المانجينج بارتنر لزوغفيان consultancy, and we're so happy to hear from her. أهلين عبد الله كيف حالك؟ يعني مرة مبسوطين أول شيء إن أنتم بصحة وسلامة, مبسوطين إن أنت معنا اليوم. أهلين مهندس رائد, الله يسلمك. Friends from Red Sea Channel are also with us. And Lynn, what I want to ask you is, there's a lot of damage, a lot of destruction, a lot of businesses got hurt. Mm-hmm. Your office was one of the entities كمان that was يعني اتضررت كتير. لكن من ثاني يوم شفنا لين منظفة ومسوية وعلى البلكون حاطة وبتقول حنكمل, حنشتغل, حنسوي.
Yes.
كيف قدرتي تتخطي هذه المراحل ونوصل لأنه إحنا لازم نكون موجودين؟ أنا في شركات, في جهات, في موظفين, في فرق عمل, أنا لازم أكون اليوم جاهزة وموجودة لهم.
Such a beautiful question, Sada, and it's not a coincidence that on this day that I'm with you now on this Instagram Live, it's also the first day that the office partially reopened. We are still fixing a lot of things. We have workers that have finally, thank goodness, made sure that the office is safe for people to move back into, and we will need a few more days to do a final construction work and then move into a proper cleanup. But that I love that you brought this up, and thank you for bringing it up. Because I'm the type of person that believes that if we have oxygen capacity, we have to lend it to those right now who don't. And I'm a believer that safe workspaces are a brilliant oxygen tank, and they will keep people going. And as you know, the way we are set up as a business, as a partnership with our research teams, our creatives teams, our operations teams, there's a lot of sense of purpose. And there's a lot of sense of duty in the work that we do. And a lot of our work is frontline work in the face of poverty, in the face of social injustice, in the face of humanitarian emergencies. Again, there was no more important city for us to be in thanks to this confinement, but to all be in Beirut together. And just 2 days before the explosion and the day before, we were hosting over a virtual convening the Iraqi president, our Yazidi friends in Iraq, various UN agencies, various donor governments stepping up for Iraq, and of course the Kurdistan regional government as well was present. And so when you look at the videos that then went live and went all over the media and were all over TV, with between my speeches and moderating and mediating the sessions, that office was the most devastated office. And the only reason we ended up not hosting on August 4th, because the principle had, the idea had been, we'll host August 3rd for the commemoration of the Yazidi genocide. And then on August 4th, we will host the second day. And our Yazidi friends and the president of Iraq instead suggested, actually, it would better work with the advocacy schedule if we did August 2nd and 3rd. So it is thanks to our Yazidi friends that we were not in that office on that day, because we had closed that hosting, and we were not in the office when the explosion happened. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened to one of my team members, who I think would have been very, very badly injured. It's more than just symbolism to stand up and to say we're opening up. The point is we never closed. And I think you've seen the press release that we issued, saying that we're here to stay. This explosion is such an important reminder to all businesses, to all families, to all citizens. If you have the oxygen and capacity to stay vested, there is never a more important time to redefine and reinvent this country, and it is now. And so immediately made sure that everybody, that nobody was entering the office until everything was safe. Safety came first. From there, today was the first day that we opened, partially. Part of the team was in, because not all of the offices are yet ready to be opened. And we never closed, Sada. We're never going to close.
Absolutely.
It's going to take a lot more than an explosion for us and many of us in the ecosystem to close.
أول شيء الحمد لله على سلامتكم. أنا I'm so happy إني مرة مبسوطة إنه أسمع إنه الحمد لله قاعدين تتخطوا وترجعوا على هذا المكان. منى بتقول women who walk the talk. الله يحفظكم. يعني الحمد لله انه قادرين نتعدى ونتخطى ونبني، لانه مو سهل اللي صاير. يعني العالم كله اصلا بيشوف التحديات. 2020 كانت من اكبر التحديات اللي بنواجهها. كل يوم نسمع خبر، كل يوم لخبطات، كل يوم اشياء ما حد متوقع ايش ممكن يسوي. وفوق هذا أغسطس 4 زي ما انت قلتي يوم عادي، يوم مره عادي، يوم كل واحد خلص من شغله راجعين على بيتهم كذا، وفجاه هذا اللي يصير. انقلبت الدنيا كلها، اتقلبت وتغيرت اشياء كثير لافراد كثير. لكن خلال ايام انتم قاعدين تتخطوا وتبنوا وترجعوا، حتى لو on a small scale, but still, as you said, we're not stopping. Nothing will stop us. We're continuing with that mindset. ايش الشيء اللي حتسويه؟ كنت فهمت السؤال. Lynn,
I was waiting for this question.
Before I even ask it, Lynn knows what I'm going to ask. Okay.
Sada, this is such a cataclysmic event. It's the type of event where if you don't look within and make intentional decisions, who are we going to be? And even as importantly, who are we not going to be? If we don't go through that rite of passage and we go straight into emergency response, straight into survivorship mode, straight into robotic crisis management mode, if we skip that pertinent step, then it will be like any other tragic event in Lebanon. Many of us really felt the cataclysmic nature, the, no pun intended, but the explosive nature of what this explosion means for Beirut, for Lebanon, for our people. I think the way to answer the question for you is maybe to give a little bit of context, first and foremost. It wasn't an explosion in a normal Beirut day or a normal Lebanon day. Lebanon was already suffering. We have over 40 crises that were already happening and unfolding, be it a currency crisis, a fiscal crisis, an economic crisis, a financial crisis, a trust crisis, various social crises, an unwillingness to invest crisis. That is the Lebanon that we were before this tragic event took place. And so the question of, so what are we going to do about it? It's a lot more than a reaction and a response to an explosion. It's a decision to decide who do we want to be and who do we not want to be. And as I've been telling a lot of our loved ones and friends around us, it's not anymore about كلن يعني كلن. It's about كلنا يعني كلنا.
It's a yes.
And to answer your question, Sarah, we already started. Let me tell you what we've been doing. As you know, we have a research and development team in-house. And so immediately we began to assess what are the data needs in this tragic, urgent, emergency environment. And again, having the privilege of learning so much from spending now 6 years in Iraq in a state of emergency, surely there are some lessons that we can bring back home. And so choosing to enter a mindset of strategic data design in the wake of what was already a data crisis, because the ecosystem of civil society and civil movements, God bless this sector in this country. They have always behaved as government and more for the longest of times. But this was a time when we're going to need everybody to come together and to work together very meaningfully for a long-term sustainable vision and growth. And so we already felt that there was likely going to be data or the lack thereof that was going to get in the way. So that was one important hypothesis, Sada, that we put on the table. The second thing that we did, the day after the explosion, I issued a new policy in the company and I sent it to all of our team members and I put it up on our team channels on Slack and on our social media. And I said, there has never been a more important time to serve. We are launching a volunteerism, corporate volunteerism program in the company. You have 5 working days for the next 3 weeks. You decide how you want to use them. We don't want to see you in the office. We want to see you on the ground. We want to see you on the field. And we're paying full salaries, full benefits, because we need you, the best of you, to be on the ground. So that was another thing that we did. The third thing that we are working on at the moment, Sada, is convening this ecosystem to using data. We've already started our exploratory focus group discussions and we're learning from the ecosystem how they perceive the needs on the ground, how they perceive the crises to come on the ground. What we are here to do is to give voice to those experts on the ground, the volunteers, the private citizens, the civil movements, many who are native to the area, who've been there for the longest of times, and a lot from other parts of Lebanon with expertise and with capacity and with lung capacity, who said, we're stepping up and we're all heading to Beirut. Wonderful. And so what we are doing is making sure that we establish convening power so that everyone can speak with each other, so we don't fall into a crisis of coordination, and we don't fall into a crisis where funding gets duplicated in the efforts, in the aid efforts, in the relief efforts, and then we're dealing with opportunity cost, because Lebanon right now does not deserve opportunity cost. And of course, as you know, we're working with donors, and I'm really privileged to say, and it is a lot thanks to our friends in Saudi Arabia, we raised in less than 48 hours with just a few phone calls over $500,000 that have already been directed to this little country. The generosity from Saudi Arabia and other donor governments we couldn't do without today. But what I also hope is with the work that we are doing to convene the ecosystem and to ensure that the voices of the ecosystem are scientifically, methodologically brought to surface, we are going to make sure that there is data, there are research papers that these donor governments can turn to as a resource.
Absolutely. That's
So
exactly what we need.
Yeah, because you know what, Sada? We're not here for an emergency relief effort. We're not here for aid. We're here for long-term investment that is sustainable, that is authentic, and that brings out the best of all of the different parts of Lebanon.
Absolutely. And on that note, Allah yatikum al-afia, Lynn, and really thank you. Thank you for sharing all these, everything. And wow, to be part of your team where you're being told, go volunteer and your pay, nothing's going to be blacks. We're paying for that. That's brilliant. And I want to thank you. Thank you for coming on board.